So I'm going to talk about pre and post workout nutrition, but I want to have a caveat in the beginning that if you're just kind of exercising for general health and fitness, like more your exercise is more walks or like a 30-minute workout here or there, your goals are more modest, or you don't have any like unique like competition goals, you probably don't need any, like, very particular workout nutrition strategies. I would rather someone focus on eating more minimally processed foods, more veggies, fruits, quality carbs, healthy fats, things like that, making sure their portions are right, pre-logging their meals wherever possible, and, of course, eating slowly, when possible. Like, for a lot of people, stressing out about, like, nutrient timing and meal timing, when to eat your carbs, your fats, supplements to take around workouts can be a little distracting if you're not, like, doing really intense workouts. So, a lot of this content today is gonna be more geared towards, like, if you're working out, like, for an hour class that's a little more intense, then some of these tips will be helpful for you. But if you're just, like, going on a walk, you probably don't need to, like, do a meal timing before a walk. For some people, nutrient and meal timing does give you a good framework, so if that's of interest to you, we can talk more about that one-on-one. I'm not saying nutrient timing is good or bad, it can and does work, but it's just one tool in our toolkit. So timing of meals around workouts, it's not gonna, like, massively transform your physique necessarily, but it will help with your performance. So when we talk about pre-exercise, what and when you eat before exercise can make a significant difference in your performance and your recovery. So we're talking about 2 to 3 hours before a workout, and I am gonna talk about, like, people who work out early in the morning because I know that that is very different. So this is more if you're a midday, maybe late morning, midday, afternoon person for working out. In the 3 hours or so before your workout, you're gonna wanna eat something because it's gonna help you sustain your energy, help your performance, help you stay hydrated, preserve your muscle mass, and help your recovery. So, eating protein in the few hours before exercise, that's gonna help you maintain or even increase your muscle size. Very small amounts each time, but it will help. This can reduce markers of muscle damage as well, or at least prevent it from getting worse. And the less damage to your muscles, the faster you recover, the better you're going to adapt to your exercise over a long period of time. Eating protein before you exercise is going to help fuel your bloodstream with amino acids when your body's going to need them the most, because the amino acids have the muscle building capabilities. So not only are you preventing damage, you're increasing your muscle size. So with any protein source before a workout is gonna do the trick. I'll talk a little bit more about specific examples of foods here shortly. Carbs are the most important. This is where it's gonna fuel your training and help you with recovery. It's kind of a misconception that you only need carbs if you're engaging in, like, more than 2 hours of an endurance workout, but in reality, carbs can also enhance shorter term, like 1 hour high intensity training. So unless you're just going for like a walk, having some carbs in your system will help improve when you're doing high intensity exercise. That is, for me personally, carbs are the main thing that I focus on before a workout. Eating carbs before exercise is going to preserve muscle and liver glycogen, and this tells your brain that you are well fed and helps increase muscle retention and growth. It's also going to stimulate the release of insulin. When combined with protein, this is going to improve protein synthesis and prevent protein breakdown. So mixed meals of protein and carbs are a good idea. Fats before exercise. These don't really appear to improve or diminish your performance, and they don't really seem to fuel performance. That's more what carbs' job is for. Fats do help slow your digestion down, which means it can help you maintain your blood glucose and insulin levels and keep you even during a workout. They're important, but I wouldn't prioritize fats before a workout. So, what we want to include in a pre workout meal, like 1 to 3 hours before training. Again, we want to aim for probably 20% of a meal should be like protein. And that's again going to help with increased muscle size, muscle retention, preventing breakdown, things like that. Carbs are where you want to have the majority of your food before exercise to come in. especially if you're doing a longer run, a longer CrossFit class, maybe a longer lifting session. Carbs are going to help improve your performance. And I would even go so far as to recommend 15 to 20% of your carbs for the day could go towards your pre-workout meal. That's really going to depend on when you work out though. And again, fats, keep it low, especially if it's within 2 hours before your workout. So some practical recommendations. If you have 2 to 3 hours before your exercise, you have a lot of opportunity here. You can have a solid mixed meal with protein, fat, and a mix of carbs that are both low and high on the glycemic index and like a low calorie beverage. Of course, it's going to depend on your size, your goals, your genetics, and how long and intense your activity is going to be. So, like an endurance athlete who's going to go on a 20-mile run is going to need a lot more carbs than somebody just getting ready for like a 45 to 60-minute gym session. So, a couple of food ideas. This is where an omelet with like 1 egg, 2 or 3 egg whites, add some veggies, sweet potato hash, like fruit on the side is a good mix of protein, fat, with a little more carbs with having the sweet potatoes and the fruit on the side. That's a great pre workout meal. Have a sandwich on whatever bread you prefer, with some sort of protein source on the sandwich, lettuce and tomato, maybe some cheese to cover the fat. You could do like a portion of chicken, fish, beef, tofu with some rice and roasted vegetables. Or you could do oatmeal with some nut butter, fruit, maybe a side of scrambled eggs. Those are a couple of examples of like well-rounded meals that would be good 1 to 3 hours before your workout. If you only have an hour before, the closer you get to your workout, the less time there is to digest food. So that's why I generally would recommend something more liquid at that point, like a shake or a smoothie. You could make a protein smoothie with protein powder, your milk of choice, fruit of choice, berries or banana, maybe some nut butter in there or Greek yogurt would be a good balanced thing to eat, that wouldn't really slow you down too much. You could have a little bit of white rice with a little bit of a lean protein source. You could have some Greek yogurt with some fruit and protein powder mixed in, maybe just a small cup. Or if you're getting like really close, this is what I do. I usually get to the gym at like 5:15 in the morning and I wake up at 4:30. So I'm pretty much like I have just enough time to like peel my eyes open, get dressed and get out the door. I don't really have a lot of time to eat food, and I also don't really wanna eat food at that hour. So what I tend to gravitate towards are a couple things. I'll get the little applesauce packets from the store because it's just, like, quick squeeze, like, in my mouth. I don't really have to chew it much, it's easy to digest. Usually 50, 60 calories, it's all carbs because it's fruit. Or I've been loving Trader Joe's has these, but there are other options. They're like these little 45-calorie fruit leather strips that have like 11 grams of carbs. They're small, but at that hour in the morning, I just need like just enough to kind of help me move along. So I'll eat that. Or they have 100-calorie ones, or like Hannaford or Walmart sell That's It brand. They're fruit bars that literally the only ingredient is like dried mango. Or you could do just dried fruit. Grab some dried fruit from the store. I love dried mango. You could do apricots, prunes, like whatever. Watch out for prunes though, because that could help with the GI system too. So maybe not that, but dried fruit's a really good one if you don't have a lot of time before your workout and you exercise early in the morning, which I think a lot of you do tend to exercise early in the morning like I do. But yeah, it goes without saying, choose something that's not gonna bother your stomach. 2 to 3 hours before a workout's probably not the best time to go, like, have, like, spicy chicken vindaloo from the Indian restaurant. You probably don't wanna do that. During exercise. So this is more if you're doing a really long period of exercise, like an hour and a half, 2 hours. I'll use an example, like, for myself, when I'm in, like, competition prep, sometimes my sessions will go an hour and a half to 2 hours, so I usually will bring, like, a barbell bar with me because it has a good mix of protein and carbs and fat. I'll bring some dried fruit with me. But during exercise, it's really important to maintain hydration. So, like, if nothing else, water is really all you need here. During long periods of exercise, it's really important to have like immediate quick sources of fuel. Stay hydrated and really like a little bit of protein to help prevent muscle breakdown. Something I've also done, this is more in a competition setting, but I'm a big fan of Sour Patch Kids. They're a very quick sugar carb source. So if you are doing like a longer period of exercise, that's a great time to have a little bit of Sour Patch Kids. They don't bother my stomach, so that's what I'll go to. Again, this is really only necessary for certain people that are doing long, intense training bouts or even multiple daily training sessions. And I don't think anybody in here falls under the category of like really needing to focus on nutrition during exercise. If that's something you want to explore, I literally have pages and pages of notes on that. I also have pages and pages of notes on fueling for CrossFit competitions. I sent that to Mia and Jess this morning because they're doing the 80K fitness challenge coming up. I have pages and pages of notes if you want to go run a marathon and how to prep for that. So I do have specific strategies for people going into competition style settings, but I'm not really talking about that tonight because I don't think it really applies to most of us. So yeah. Um you know, it there are some exceptions. So if you're exercising in direct heat and sweating a lot, it may be helpful to have like an electrolyte packet in your water or a sports drink to replace some of those electrolytes that you're losing through sweat and exertion, and it's going to help with hydration and recovery. A good example that comes to mind could be like the Memorial Day Murph. If it happens to be a hot day, that's a longer workout. You may want to have an electrolyte drink with you, just because that's going to be more intense. Um, if you're gonna compete or train again in less than 8 hours, so maybe you had to go late at night and then you're gonna turn around and go again in the morning, you may wanna have a sports drink or electrolyte drink before your next session. Um, it certainly wouldn't help to sip on a sports drink during, like, competition settings so that you're really having solid hydration and energy supply. I won't get too much into these notes about exercise lasting more than 2 hours because that's I don't think any of us are exercising for longer than 2 hours on a regular basis. The post-workout meal. This is where our goal is to refuel, rehydrate, and promote recovery. So, ideally, you should try to eat within 2 hours of finishing whatever workout you're doing. The urgency of that meal is gonna depend on what you ate pre-workout or didn't eat. Maybe you didn't eat. If you didn't eat much pre-workout or you ate several hours before your workout, that's where that post-workout nutrition becomes more important. I'll speak for myself. I don't really eat that much before I work out. Some days I don't eat at all. And as soon as I get home, within 20 to 30 minutes, I am eating my massive breakfast that most of you see me post probably once a week. So, this is where it's important to have protein after exercise to stimulate the protein synthesis, prevent muscle breakdown, make sure we're holding on to whatever muscle we did work on and keeping that growth. So, it's a great strategy to have a lot of protein in your post-workout meal. If you want something like quick and convenient and you're low on time, at least make yourself like a post-workout protein shake or smoothie. That's going to be better than nothing at all. That's going to be better than like running out the door with just coffee and vibes for the day and then like crashing later on. Any high quality complete protein will do the job as long as you eat enough of it. So for men, that's like 40 to 60 grams of protein. For women, I would say no less than 20 to 30 grams in that post workout meal. Carbs. Carbs are also important post workout. And it's really unnecessary to, stuff yourself with a bunch of refined carbohydrates and sugars to spike your insulin. Really, like, this is where you want to go for minimally processed full food carbs. So, oats or like oatmeal, sweet potatoes or regular potatoes, even some rice, fruit. Fruit, especially for restoring and maintaining liver glycogen, is really a good choice. So those are what I would go to post workout. I eat toast or like bread as well is a good option. Fats after exercise. So you would think that fats after exercise should be avoided because they slow digestion and absorption of nutrients. And while that is true in most cases, it's mostly irrelevant. The amount of fat that you should consume post-workout can and should be higher than your pre-workout meal, but it's not really going to have any impact on your muscle growth or any glycogen stores. So, some examples of post-workout meals. You could make protein pancakes from like egg whites, rolled oats, Cottage cheese or Greek yogurt, Kodiak Cakes makes a pre-made mix, Stack brand makes a pre-made mix, so I like protein pancakes. You could, again, do a grilled chicken or any sort of protein source with rice and roasted veggies if it's later in the day. I'm somewhat of a breakfast absolutist in that I will only eat breakfast foods for breakfast. I will not eat foods that I think belong at lunch and dinner for breakfast. You could have an omelet with maybe some avocado toast. You could do some ground beef with sweet potato or butternut squash, maybe some marinara, cottage cheese. You could do some salmon with sweet potato and veggies. You could do like a tuna sandwich on whole grain bread. Those are some good examples of post-workout meals. Um, and you don't have to, like, rush in the door and, like, do it right away, but I wouldn't poke around forever. I would try to eat within a 2-hour window, because after that, you're kind of losing any, like, gain from your workout if you're not supporting it with your nutrition. Again, if your pre-training meal was small or you ate several hours before, it's gonna be more important for you. If you train in a fasted state, like, first thing in the morning before breakfast, like me, it's also a good idea to chow down as soon as you can after your workout. You know, I'll kinda talk really quickly about, like, special needs for athletes. I know I'm circling back to that, but if you're somebody who, like, logs a lot of high intensity, classes or even miles as a runner each week, your carb and calorie needs are gonna be a lot higher. This is where you could even add, like, a protein and carbohydrate drink during your training. There are powders out there, like super carb powders that you can add to protein shakes to give you a quick digestible source of carbs. If you're training as a bodybuilder or a weightlifter, power lifter with serious muscle growth in mind, maybe you're going into a caloric surplus or a bulk, then your protein and calorie needs are likely higher. And that's where you'd want to also think about maybe a mid workout protein and carbohydrate shake. If you're getting ready for, like, bodybuilding or a fitness competition and you're accumulating a lot of exercise hours and trying to get a single digit body fat percentage, your carb intake is gonna be a lot lower. So there's, like, nuance to all of this. But again, I'll tie it back to what I said at the beginning. Overall, the focus for you guys should be on food quality and quantity. And if you're somebody that's maybe it's just like a 15 to 30-minute home workout or a walk, then pre-workout nutrition and post-workout nutrition is not gonna come into play as much, and it's not gonna be as necessary, and you probably don't need any particular strategy. Whereas, like, I know a lot of us have done or do CrossFit, even if it's an hour class, it is important that when you're done, you get in a meal within 2 hours, or if you have the ability to, try to get a little bit of carbohydrate in your body before a CrossFit class because they're intense, and sometimes the workouts can be 20 plus minutes, and that's a long time to be under that high of a strain. Really, there's no perfect pre and post training regimen for everyone. It's going to be context specific, and the protein, carb, and fat requirements for a 150-pound female endurance athlete in the midst of marathon training versus a 250-pound power lifter recovering from a heavy resistance training session are going to be very different. Um, Also, times of your training year can dictate different needs in post-exercise recovery. So that same power lifter may need a different approach when he or she starts to cut back in preparation for a meet or a contest. But for most of us, everyday people who don't have athletic competitions on the horizon, the best pre and post training meals are going to have some combination of a good protein, a good carb, a little bit of healthy fat, maybe some fruits and vegetables, and some water. And that's going to provide you with all the fuel that you need to be successful in your workout. It can be a solid food, it can be a smoothie or a shake, and the amount of each macro is really going to depend on your needs, your personal preference, your tolerance, maybe what you have planned for the rest of the day. In terms of timing, you have about 1 to 2 hours on both sides of your training to get maximum benefit. And really, overall, the total amount of protein and carbs and fat consumed over the course of your day is going to be far more important for your performance improvement, your fat loss, your lean gain than any specific nutrient timing strategy. So By eating a healthy, well-balanced meal 1 to 2 hours before exercise and another meal 1 to 2 hours after, most people can meet their workout nutrition needs without anything else crazy. So, in other words, if you're a healthy person who exercises regularly, you probably don't need any special magic strategy, and what I've said today is gonna be good enough. So, with that, anybody have questions? Need meal ideas? Anything specific? Is anybody running a marathon tomorrow that I need to know about? Good. I would hope you would tell me. Maybe I'll ask this, like, what do you guys typically eat before you work out, if anything?